The first thing I wanted to ask about was obviously I'm sure you have a plan in place whenever you get cast in any role or way that you prepare for your character. And I know you might not want to speak too much about certain plot points in the Acolyte, but was there a different approach this time given the nature of the character that you play?
Oh yeah, totally different. I mean, I going in because I knew this was going to be a long shoot, and
Hmm.
I haven't done much television before. I knew I was going to have a really good sense of these characters before I got in there. So I did a lot of writing and a lot of like movement work, and we also had an awesome movement coach who helped me kind of hone in on the specific characteristics of the two characters and differentiate them physically, which felt really important to me. I really wanted them to feel like two different people because I just thought that would be interesting to watch and a better challenge for me. And also because I felt like they represent different sides of the force, and so I wanted that to be communicated through them too. So yeah, it was totally different.
Yeah, and you mentioned there about these characters representing different things. A lot of people I've spoken to about Star Wars in general speak about watching it as a child and growing up with it and kind of their view of the world and their view of Star Wars changing as they get older. Obviously, in The Acolyte, your characters do age a little bit, but also there's a constant connection to parentage, whether it's the found family or found fatherhood, the motherhood that gets kind of moved on from and how that affects you. How did you bring any of your kind of personal experiences with the childhood nature of Star Wars, even though you play the adult version of the characters?
That's such an interesting question. Um, well, when it came to the heritage of the characters, I thought a lot about like the concept of cultural dysphoria and how that can shape how people relate to the world. I thought about my own experiences being in environments where I was around a lot of people who didn't look like me when I was younger, and how that shaped my sense of self when I was that age. And then I thought about me when I was older, when I had found my community in an environment where I felt comfortable, that made me feel empowered and comfortable in my skin. And for me, it was very important that these two characters had different experiences to their cultural heritage in that way, and that defined, I guess, their sense of self and security in self, and therefore their paths. And yeah, I guess I don't want to give anything away, but with Ocean in particular, the idea that she would have this disconnection from her heritage was very important for me and her path.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned there the idea of feeling empowered, and that's obviously something that media can do a lot. I know you've worked on projects that have had that at their very heart before. With Star Wars, I think a lot of people are going to look to whenever there is diversity within Star Wars. A lot of people do feel really empowered by that because obviously, it's been around since the 70s. It hasn't always been the case. Was that something that you were obviously you'd be aware of, but as you've gone through this process of being in it, being kind of mindful of the fact that being in Star Wars um, is kind of bigger than just a role. It becomes an iconic part, really, of television history.
Um, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that that's been my way into it from the first meeting I ever had. You know, these were the conversations that we were having, and I knew that I was taking on a responsibility that was not just as an actress, but as someone navigating of the implications and reverberations that Star Wars has on the world. And that to me is kind of my dream, to be able to be in that position where I hopefully am able to use doing the thing that I love, and to speak further on things that I care about. And I also just am very grateful to be a part of something where I identify with the messaging and its purpose in the world.
Was that one of the big things that drew you to the Acolyte? Because it feels to me quite different to a lot of the recent Star Wars projects in that there's not a lot of previous characters in there. It's very original, grounded story. Yeah, it takes place on different planets, but it's very human in its ambitions. It's very much about your characters as opposed to the fate of the galaxy. Is that something that really attracted you to this as a Star Wars project, as opposed to just the name Star Wars obviously being huge?
Absolutely, yeah. It's the reason why I did it, and It's also because I immediately had so much faith in the vision of Leslie Headland, and she was so incisive and passionate, and full of love and heart around what her vision was and what she wanted its impact to be.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time. That is all the questions that I have time
Thank
for,
you. I
but
really liked your
best of luck with everything
questions.
today.
Nice
Thank
to
you.
talk to
I really liked your answers.
you.